What's up, guys? This is Coach Sebastian at Evolve Fitness, and today we're going to break down this chart and talk about a concept called the athlete's hierarchy of needs. So what this does is it basically gives us a hierarchy for what are the most important things to consider when developing a training program or coaching a client. So it's something our coaches use to help assess and build the best programs possible, but it's also something important to understand as an athlete to make sure that you have the most effective programming and plan for you as well. So starting at the bottom of our pyramid, we have flexibility, right? So this is the first thing that we consider when developing a program or working with an athlete. So flexibility, simply put, is basically your passive range of motion. So as an example, if I take my finger, my passive range of motion would be how flexible or how much that finger can move with an external force acting upon it, right? So if I can take my finger and I can bend it back this far using an external force, this is how flexible this joint is, okay? And we can assess the whole body joint by joint and find out where we may have flexibility issues by doing an assessment. From there, once we've determined that we either do or don't have the flexibility necessary for certain movements, we're also going to assess our mobility. And if flexibility is our passive range of motion, then mobility is our active range of motion. So taking that same joint, we've already determined how much passive range of motion it has or how far we can move it with an external force. So taking my finger, for example, again, I can press back this far. This is how flexible my finger is. Now, that same joint, my active range of motion or my mobility is how far I can move that myself, okay? So if I can move my finger back this far without any outside help, that would be my mobility. And that's where I have control through that joint. So once we know we have the passive range of motion, we look to see if we have the active range of motion when we do our assessments. From there, if we've determined that we have the flexibility and the mobility necessary, there's no issues there to work through, the next thing we're going to look at in our hierarchy is what we call strength balance. This is where it starts to get fun because this is where we can do some testing, maybe geek out a little bit more. For those of you who've been doing this longer and you have certain lifts and you know your numbers, we can use that data to find out where we may have strength balance issues. For example, right to left imbalances. Okay, so is my right leg much stronger than my left leg, or right arm versus left arm? We can also look at movement patterns like our hinge to our squat. We use a percentage here, so our deadlift and our back squat. We want to see our athletes have a back squat that's approximately 80% of their deadlift. So if we can deadlift 100 pounds, then we should back squat about 80 pounds. Okay, so this is something, again, we can take our lifts, we can assess, we can see maybe where we have strength imbalances. And if we already have the flexibility and mobility necessary, then that's what we're going to target next. And at this point, you can see some huge performance gains. And as far as getting out of pain, this is another very important area to look at, because if you have, again, an imbalance where one side is much stronger than the other, it could be that you're compensating, you're doing too much on one side of your body, or you're not activating the right muscles if we have a pattern imbalance. So again, geeking out a little bit more, but strength balance will be the next place that we look at. Huge performance enhancer and pain prevention, or helping us to get out of pain. After strength balance, if we got everything there, and it's usually never perfect, but what we're looking for is about 85% of the boxes checked. It gives us the ability to kind of move on and continue working on some strength balance stuff while we move further up the hierarchy. The next area, super important, is our work and recovery. So you could be doing, you have the perfect program, you could have all the flexibility, mobility that you need, good strength balance, but if you're doing too much work without enough recovery, you're never going to see the progress that you want, right? And this could also be something that leads to a problem like feeling pain because we're just not recovering. The only reason that we work out is to give ourselves an opportunity to recover, because when we recover is actually when we become more fit. When you come into the gym and you do a workout and you walk out that same day, you're actually less fit than when you walked in the gym. And it's the in-between where you give yourself the chance to recover, we eat enough food, we get enough sleep, that we actually make the gains that we're looking to make, okay? So even though this is higher up the hierarchy, extremely important, and arguably could be the base of the pyramid as well, because again, if we're doing everything else right, but we're not recovering, we're not going to see the improvements we want. So a quick example over here. All right, let's say that we have our base capacity at a 5, okay? When you come into the gym and you work out, you're actually breaking down, again, your fitness or your capacity. Let's say we do -1 and we take ourselves down to a 4. Now we have to recover at least to a 5.1 to make that workout worthwhile, to see progress. So if we're working out Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, Monday we take ourselves down -1, we have to recover 1.1 back to a 5.1 to actually become more fit from that workout, okay? And then we can do the same thing, work out -1 by Friday, have to recover by 1.1. What most people tend to do is think more is better. We come in, we work out on Monday, we go -1. We only recover halfway, and then the next day we're already back in the gym for another workout, right? And this pattern continues where we're doing too much work and not getting enough rest, and over time we're actually becoming less fit, okay? So we have to be smart with our recovery and make sure that we're trending the opposite direction. Again, this box is super, super important. The last aspect that we're going to consider in this hierarchy is skill, okay? And this is sometimes where people make the mistake to go to first, because we want to get people in quick. We want to get them doing, the movements that they want to do. In a class setting, a lot of the times the workout's already predetermined. So if a movement comes up, like a high skill movement, like a snatch or an overhead squat, you don't have the time to assess people all the way up this pyramid. Instead, we're just looking at a glimpse of this movement and we're trying to fix it. So we're like, get your hips back, get your knees over your toes, extend your elbows, get the bar back over your shoulders, whatever those cues are to try to put them in a good movement and supposedly improve their skill. But again, the issue could be somewhere down here. Maybe they just don't have the flexibility or the mobility to do that movement. So all that coaching is going to basically be a lost cause, which is why we, with all of our athletes, like to have a full assessment so that we can really figure out what is the issue and what's the most effective program or exercise for them, okay? So again, this is the athlete's hierarchy of needs. Super important concept to understand, even as an individual if you're working out on your own, but something that we use as coaches to assess all of our athletes to make sure that you're getting the safest and most effective program for you. Like always, if you have any questions on this, feel free to ask a coach. Thanks for watching.